Bob Dylan wasn't feeling it. On a fateful day in 1963, Bob Dylan was given the opportunity to perform on one of the biggest stages in America via The Ed Sullivan Show. It was a chance for him to reach a massive audience and showcase his unique brand of folk music to the world. But when he arrived at the rehearsal, things quickly took a turn. CBS execs had requested he perform a different song than the one he planned, Talkin' John Birch Paranoid Blues. For Dylan, who was known for his uncompromising artistic vision, this was unacceptable. Without hesitation, he made a bold move. He simply walked out and quit the show. It was a moment that became legendary in the annals of music history, a testament to Dylan's unwavering dedication to his art and his refusal to be censored or controlled by outside forces.
Good for you, Bob Dylan. Good evening, everybody.
Hey, everybody. It's one of my favorite people ever, Bobby D.
Welcome to Strange Bedfellows. I'm Lori Spencer, along with my co-host, Tyler McConnell, coming to you from the heartland of America. Tyler's up in a small town in Missouri. I'm broadcasting from Oklahoma, where we had another tornado outbreak yesterday. We had like 11 tornadoes in a day yesterday. And the weather looks kind of iffy here tonight, too, so hopefully we won't get blown away before the show is over.
We did a little practice run, and you couldn't make it to the Scott appearance last night, Lori, because you were down in the cellar.
I was literally hiding from a tornado at that exact moment when you guys were on with Scott Ritter.
Well, thank God you're safe.
Yeah. Well, you know, we just had a big tornado here 2 months ago and did a lot of roof repairs and just got it all fixed, right? And then more tornadoes. So we were like praying that our new roof wouldn't fly off the house last night. Fortunately, the tornado missed us by that much, but it did a lot of damage just a few miles down the road.
Wow.
We might get more tonight, I hear. We got more coming. But we're going to do our best here to give you a fantastic show tonight. As you guys know, we are filling in for Scott Ritter while he's traveling in Russia. This is his usual Friday night time slot, but due to the time difference, when it's 8 o'clock Eastern time, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning or later in Russia. I'm not sure which of the 11 time zones Scott is in as we speak, but we will have a report from Scott that he pre-recorded a little later in the show. We want to talk to him. I want to hear about his experience being there in Moscow for the big Victory Day parade this past week. And that leads us to the subject of tonight's show. Kind of a controversial topic, but hey, that's what we do here at Strange Bedfellows. Tonight we're talking communism. And we want to bring in a couple of commies. Of course, as you know, my co-host Tyler identifies as a conservative Christian communist.
That's right. I do.
And, you know, I thought a lot of you out there are probably scratching your heads going, what is that? What is a conservative Christian communist? I thought communism was godless. That's what they always told me.
Evil.
School. Right? You're atheists. You don't believe in God, all that kind of thing.
Yep.
So
we eat babies.
And you eat babies. And I thought that was kind of an interesting place to begin. And since, you know, this is a new show and you guys are just getting to know us and getting to know Tyler, I'm, for the record, not a communist, even though I'm wearing red today. I wore my red for the commie show. But, you know, I wanted you guys to get to know Tyler a little bit because he's had a fascinating journey. You know, he started out as a conservative Republican and somehow found his way to Marxism and communism. So, Tyler, would you be so kind as to tell us a little bit about your own personal journey and how you went from A to Z?
Sure.
How does that work?
I'd love to. Well, I figured when I'd tell this part of the story, I'd put this flag up behind me because great. I think I first saw this flag in 2012 or something like that. This one right here. And as soon as I saw it, it just cemented it for me. I was raised Southern Baptist in the Southern Baptist Church, and I was taught from a really young age that the point of life was to live for something bigger than yourself and be willing to die for it if necessary. So as you grow up in America, you start hitting this kind of weird pushback of like just capitalist excess. Like, it's obvious that the kind of guiding ethos, at least from the media, is not, it's not love your neighbor as yourself. It's get mine, racks on racks on racks, dollar bill, y'all, by any means necessary. Get that money, get that paper. And, I talked about it a little bit on your YouTube channel before, Lori, so I can try to recount what I talked about then. I'm under the impression that there's quite a few conservative-leaning people in the audience tonight, and I can relate to that because when I was in high school, Iraq War #2 was going on, and I was 14 years old when the planes hit the towers. I was not political yet. I had no idea really what was going on. I just remember going home and watching the TV and feeling very anxious and nervous and not really understanding it, not being political yet. I wanted to have big boy conversations, but I didn't know where to start. Where do you start learning politics in America? So at that time in that election, I remember wanting George Bush Jr. to win at the age of 17. Just in my gut, it felt like the safe choice. Why rock the boat right now? We're at war. The terrorists have just attacked us. And after that, I went to a conservative Christian college after that. And it was ironic that the most rebellious thing you could be at this college was a Democrat. This was like 2007. There were two people in the college Democrat club. One of the his smart-ass history teachers thought it'd be funny if we restarted the club during the Obama election. And it was me, and my vice president was a secret atheist at the Christian college. It was a work-study college, so it attracted like half true believers and half poor working-class white kids that needed a college degree. And, I was both at the same time. But there's a debate on the internet where I debated for Barack Obama. It's difficult for me to watch it now. But I gave it my all, and I'm still proud of it because it was a courageous thing to do. It was the dean sat on the front row, and he was like lunch buddies with Ronald Reagan, and I think Colin Powell had just came to the school. Sarah Palin came while I was there. Bush Jr. came. They wouldn't let me go to that one. I'd graduated. I tried hard to get back in, but they wouldn't let me into that. And so Obama got elected, and I thought he was going to fix everything. I thought it was going to be hope and change. I thought, we were going to put these crooked Wall Street bankers in jail. And instead, as Michael Hudson says, he had secret meetings with these Wall Street bankers. He
packed his cabinet with them.
Yes, he did. The WikiLeaks memo is the exact people from Citigroup. I think it was like 13 out of 14 of the recommendations were from Citigroup, and Obama just went ahead and put them on the cabinet. And Matt Taibbi was a big force at the time. He was the main person chronicling the selloutness of Barack Obama. And I was watching this just sort of. I was still apathetic about 2012. I was really busy with my own life. I was going to graduate school for journalism and was just, sadly apolitical. I mean, I understand why Obama put people to sleep because he kind of put me to sleep there for a minute. But they kept calling Obama a socialist. They kept calling him a socialist on Fox News. And I was like, this guy can't be a socialist. I don't understand what that means. I didn't know what the word meant.
And Sean Hannity called him a communist.
A communist. Okay. Well, that's That's rich. I mean, okay.
funny.
When the neoliberals are considered communists, you're in a fix there. But so I started learning about it, and right off the bat, I was like, holy hell, the reason they don't want us to learn about this is because it made a lot of sense to me. It was like, it was always instinctive to me that if you follow the money, you're going to figure out who's really a problem. Jesus chased the money lenders out of the temple. And I just started seeing it that way. And then I was like, wait, there's a whole philosophy. There's like 200 years of incredibly smart people like developing what they think of as a social science of how to find who's in power, who's screwing up stuff, and how to organize everyday working people to put their foot down and take back their lives in their country. And I was blown away by this. And then the more I looked into it, it became clear that there were two strains of this thought in America. And you don't want to just come out and call yourself a communist when you first get into this. So you pussyfoot around with all these other words like libertarian communism, or maybe I'm not a communist, I'm a socialist, or no, I'm just a progressive, or it gets very like niche.
And do you think, Tyler, that that's because the word communism still has so much fear associated with it after years, decades of Cold War anti-communist brainwashing?
Absolutely. Because like, I can't remember. I think it's like the Ring of Fire channel or something. I've been watching it recently, but it's this brilliant Catholic priest that gives these lectures on Socrates and Plato and Aristotle and like Nietzsche versus Rousseau, and just brilliant. And then I watched one yesterday. It was Confucius versus Marx. And he just like loses his mind when he starts talking about Marx. He's like, Marxism's failed everywhere it's ever been tried, and it just immediately leads to the death of 100 million people. And I'm like, he's losing his mind. Like, he's not, people of a certain age are not able to even like open their minds to the possibility of anything from this philosophy working. And it's frustrating because
it must be for someone of your generation who didn't grow up during the Cold War. It must be strange. Now, I did grow up during the Cold War. I'm a late Cold War kid. I'm a Gen Xer. I went to high school and college in the 80s during the Reagan years when anti-communism was still very strong. And my generation from childhood, I remember in elementary school, they were showing us in assemblies and whatnot, all these anti-communist films, propaganda films made by the United States government and Hollywood to brainwash the kids to fear the communists, to hate the communists. Next thing you know, they've got us hating Russian people and Chinese people and the North Koreans and the North Vietnamese. We fought wars with them, so we were told they were evil and we needed to hate them. And then you go from hating them to the next logical step, which is exterminating them, which is killing them. And that's how we justified murder. And for what it's worth, I'm a historian, I'm kind of a history nerd. I spend a lot of time with my nose in history books. That is, anti-communism was the fuel that fired up the Nazis in Poland, in Germany, and in Ukraine 100 years ago, before World War II. 20 years before World War II, they were having pogroms where they would round up anyone. This was after the 1917 Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. They were rounding up anyone suspected of being a Soviet, a communist. It just so happened that most of them were Jewish, because Jews tended to be communists in the Soviet Union, but they were killed for their politics as much as they were for their religion.
Yes, I don't.
Often their politics had more to do with it. Hitler was
Well-
driven by fanatic anti-communism.
Yes, I mean that poem. It's very funny because you can see it in America how they try to hide it.
You mean first
And,
they came to the socialists?
Yeah, let's
the
pull it
trade
up.
unions?
I'm going to share it just real quick, just to show it, because it's amazing. They never say the beginning of this poem, but let's look at it. They came first for who? For the communists. And I didn't speak up because I wasn't a communist. I mean, often in America, they'll start with this one and they'll just leave this top part off, you know? But this famous Martin Niemöller Lutheran pastor poem, then they came for me, and by the time no one was left to speak up. The reason they come for the communists first is because we were the ones that were most willing to arm ourselves and kill the Nazis.
That's right.
Like, and you know, I'm really excited for Caleb to be on here. I didn't quite finish my story. You know, I was digging into this stuff. No, it's fine. I mean, it's compressing years into just a few minutes, but I just kept reading this stuff. I went down the bread tube alley for a while. Peter Kropotkin, The Conquest of Bread, a fascinating book about how to build this perfect, you know, libertarian communist society without a state. But I just kept coming up on this, like, well, how do you actually do it? You know, like they weren't contending with power, and people are allergic to power. Like they don't want to have anything to do with power. They think that I absolutely hate that quote that absolute power corrupts absolutely. Well, then, you know, just don't do anything, you know, but there's other quotes like, if you don't assume power, then it will be taken over by the worst amongst you. It will be assumed by tyrants. So if good people don't try to take power and protect their class, the working class, that's how I see it, then the opposite people will take power. People that don't care if you live or die. And that's when really, after Bernie got screwed the second time, I gave American democracy one last shot, even though I knew by that point, God help us.
Wait, you mean you voted for Bernie twice?
I did. And the second time, the reason I did it, Lori, was just to completely radicalize myself. I'm going to donate this man more money, okay? And I went door to door in Houston, Missouri. Like, I swore I would get a shotgun shoved in my gut, you know.
That's dangerous.
The people that were meanest to me, Lori, were Democrats. Honestly. They were like, I can't, no, it's too dangerous. Donald Trump is too dangerous to flirt with the... But I said after that, I go, they're going to stab him in the back again. And then my old buddy, Obama, made a few phone calls. Old Buttigieg dropped out. Amy Klobuchar dropped out. Everybody else endorsed Joe Biden. This was like right before Super Tuesday, and Bernie was done. And I said, all right, I'm done. I'm a communist. I'm sick of it. There's one way this is going to get fixed in the United States of America, and it's Marxist-Leninism. It's the only one that's ever worked. It worked in Russia. It worked in China. It worked in Cuba. Did it have mistakes? Yeah, it wasn't perfect. I mean, it's an experiment, you know?
It seems to be working pretty well in North Korea as well.
Well, and it's working pretty good in China. That's what I love to bring up. Like this Catholic priest guy's like, it's failed everywhere. Capitalism works, and capitalism is the only reason that people are succeeding in China. I'm like, capitalism under a communist party? Like, how is you're grasping at straws because you can't, the mental disconnect that planning the things you need, not the things you want, but the things you need, like food, oil. I wish I'd said that on Scott Ritter last night, because he was like, I'm here in Russia. No one is poor. I don't understand this. And then he said, in America,
everything's affordable.
Yes, in America, I was there. People are sleeping a block from the White House. You can see a video of me screaming into a bullhorn about it. I was blown
they
away.
were sleeping in tents right across the street from the Victims of Communism Museum in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm. And I think
which I thought was so interesting.
What I wanted to say was that I think a big reason, Scott, that they're doing so well over there is because they've nationalized the oil supply, and they love to conflate. Like Lenin called it, the heights of industry need to be controlled, not the mom and pop shop, not the Strange Bedfellows podcast. Like China's a better place to run a small business than America because the Marxist-Lenin, the communist government prevents monopolization. And that was huge for me to realize when I heard that, like, the reason for the Great Firewall isn't so much about censorship as it is about keeping Google, Facebook, Amazon, all these monopolies out of the country so that Chinese alternatives could thrive and grow and they could have their own industry. And that, when I heard that, I go, oh my God. And like, you don't think we'll try to propagandize the Chinese population to turn on their government? We will.
We try.
We do best.
We do that. Yeah, that's what we do.
But
so Tyler, I have a question for you. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
no, you're fine.
I wanted to ask, because when you first told me about conservative Christian communism, you blew my mind. Okay. This was completely outside the realm of anything I'd ever understood to be a thing. So I started listening to you, and a lot of what you said makes sense because I'm very conservative in a lot of ways. And then I discovered that there are actually a lot of conservative Christian communists, people who identify as conservative. And I have to ask you, because this movement is really exploding on the internet.
Well, good.
Can you explain to me and our audience, what the hell is MAGA communism?
What is MAGA communism? Well, I can't speak for it as a whole. There were certain people in our sphere that started talking about it. Haas of Infrared started talking about it. Jackson Hinkle talked a lot about it. Caleb Maupin of the CPI, the organization I'm a part of, talked a lot about it, actually wrote an incredible book about it that I'm going to make an audio book of here soon on my YouTube channel.
Where is America going?
Where is America going? Yes. And I think what it is this realization, like where I live, everyone I know voted for Donald Trump, and here the Democratic Party's completely abandoned rural America. Like I went to the local Democrat meeting just to see what was going on. And it's like 80, it's like not 80, it's like 8 very, very sweet 80-year-olds that kind of look at me as an oddity. And one day they brought in a TV to show a mashup of like a fake James Bond trailer where what's the guy that did Russiagate? The guy that did the investigation, Mueller.
Oh, Robert Mueller. Yeah.
Mueller is James Bond. And like he's taking down all of these, like, Trump is like the bad guy in the Bond film. And they loved it so much they played it twice. And I was like, I leaned over to my old English teacher that was sitting there and I was like, God help us. Like, what is this? But it's this idea that there seems to be more revolutionary potential in the Trump base than in the Democrat base.
It's a very working class movement.
Yes.
MAGA is the working class.
Yes. I mean, Hillary Clinton had that famous quote. What'd she say about the deplorables? She said, I won every place that matters. Well, what about where I live, Hillary Clinton? And I mean, there's problems within, and Caleb can talk to this in much, much more detail, but there's problems in the U.S. Like I would say most communism around the world is conservative communism. They have no tolerance for this woke nonsense. They don't, it's very right wing culturally, but they want to nationalize their natural resources. Why? Because God put them in the ground for all of us and not just for the Rockefeller family. And then they can use that oil to fund the basic needs that the population needs. So there's not homeless people sleeping right outside their Capitol building. And,
that makes a lot of sense. And, I wanted to ask you because Trump had that town hall meeting on CNN the other night that was so delicious. And I noticed that a lot of communist accounts on social media loved things that he said, and they were sharing certain clips that they liked his message. And
yes,
I wanted to ask you, could you play me a little sample from the town hall? Show me something that someone like you, a conservative Christian communist, identified with that Donald Trump said.
I
Did you
would
show me
love
that?
to, because if none of you watch this, here is I'll put this in the chat real quick, because I don't think this stream is long for this world. Okay, so if you want to hop on YouTube and watch it, I may re-upload it on my Rumble channel, but I feel like they will probably pull it off of YouTube. But yeah, I was able to download the whole, someone uploaded the whole CNN town hall. But I want you to focus on, after he says these things, like the whole crowd cheers. So she's trying to, like, she's playing the role of the good liberal, you know, fresh out of grad school, shaking their finger. You should be canceled, Donald Trump. You should be canceled. And he explains this scandal. He's like, I'm rich, lady. Of course. Of course women are going to throw themselves at me. And the whole crowd cheers. Like, watch this. What?
Take that back. I can't take it back because it happens to
That
be
was
true.
beautiful.
I said it's been true for 1 million years, approximately 1 million years, perhaps a little bit longer than that.
So you stand by those comments?
Well, I don't want to lie.
Mr. President, we have a lot of
here's what she wants
Mr.
me to
President,
say.
let's
A
get to
rich
the
and
audience
famous
questions
person
tonight.
has no advantage over anyone else. Well, you do have an advantage. And I say unfortunately, but that's the way it is.
You said fortunately or unfortunately,
Well,
but Mr.
fortunately or
President, we have a lot of
unfortunately for
audience
her.
questions to get to tonight. I want to go back to the audience. We've got Danielle Rieger. She works as an oral surgery assistant. She's a Republican activist from Derry. She was a New Hampshire delegate for you in 2020. What's your question?
Hi, thank you so much for coming to New Hampshire to answer our questions. My question is regarding the economy. Over the past 2 years, we have seen the prices for everything skyrocket. From food to gas to utilities and insurance costs, many people's bills are up several $100s a month, including mine. If elected president again, what is the first thing you would do to help bring down the cost to make things more affordable?
Drill, baby, drill. You know that. So, we were energy independent. We were soon going to be energy dominant. And nobody had ever done what I did. We got oil down to $1.87. Actually, it fell lower than that in some cases. We had to save the oil companies, the price was getting. So we were doing incredibly.
So that's the first clip. And I wanted to focus on, first of all, they all cheer when he blows off this scandal. And then he talks about drill, baby, drill. We're going to get oil, get the gas prices down. Like, and they all cheer because they're not into degrowth. Like, a lot of the American left are Malthusians in disguise. They want to reduce the population. They want to make your life suck so they can keep their wealth. And this is not Marxism. If global warming is such a big deal, Democrats, why don't you invest every single penny you can find? Take it from Wall Street. Take it from your Wall Street buddies and build fusion energy. But you don't do that because you're actually owned by the oil companies. And they want to nickel and dime the American population for every penny they can get out of us. But that guy's up there.
Let me see if I understand correctly what you're saying. You're saying that communists agree that we should drill, that we should exploit our own resources, just like China's doing, just like Russia's doing,
as long as
etc.
it doesn't, we don't want to hurt the population.
This is the difference, though, and this is where Trump differs greatly from the communists when he says that. Trump does not intend to nationalize our oil production.
No.
The government would not control it in a Trump administration. He's a capitalist all the way. And Trump, like you say, he's of that other generation, older generation. He's a Cold Warrior. He grew up during the Cold War. He grew up believing that Russia and China and North Korea were the enemies. And when you listen to Trump's speeches, and this is why I wonder what the hell the MAGA communism people are smoking, because I'm like, are you listening to his speeches? In every single speech, Trump is calling out the communists.
Yes.
He thinks Joe Biden is a communist.
He does.
He thinks the whole administration are a bunch of commies.
He does.
He seems to truly believe that.
But
and a lot of his supporters are, of course, vehemently anti-communist. So that's why MAGA communism just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, we're not fully on board with it with CPI, but we do want to reach out to the Trump base because they just want hope, really. They just want hope to lead into the future. You know what I mean? Like, no, he's not going to nationalize the oil supply, but Caleb talks about that a lot. Like, we want to play big boy politics. We don't want to say this party good, this party bad. Like, we want to find cracks in the system to speak truth. And, you know, if I can use a clip like that to bring up how nationalizing the oil supply and not giving it to the 18th generation of Rockefellers or whatever could actually be good for the people and eliminate medical debt, eliminate student debt. You know, if I can use that as an opportunity to educate people on how that could help, then absolutely I will do that. And Trump, honestly, gives us a lot more opportunities to do that than Biden does.
I see you brought a couple of other clips too that I'd love to play, but I wanted to caution you, we'll probably have to skip the clip where he's talking about the 2020 election because we are on YouTube.
Right.
And I am currently, my personal YouTube channel has been censored. I'm currently in YouTube prison for daring to question the 2020 election as regards the Democratic Party and RFK Jr. But any talk about the 2020 election will get this channel banned off of YouTube.
It's nerve-wracking.
So I guess we'll have to skip that one. But could we play the media bias?
Absolutely, we will. And I would like to just say, I'll talk around it. Would that be all right with you?
Sure.
At the very end, she asks him, like, no matter what happens in 2024, you will agree with the results, right? And he goes, yeah, if they're honest, if they're real, if I can trust them.
Right on.
And the whole crowd cheers.
Yeah.
So that's the clip, you know, but the algorithms are always watching. We love you, algorithms.
Yeah, that's all we're going to say about
you.
that. Wink, wink.
Okay, so here we go. Here's his media bias. This was the real crowd pleaser here.
Sudden they raided my house. They didn't raid the house of Joe Biden. They didn't raid Obama.
But Joe Biden didn't ignore a subpoena to get those documents back like
Joe
you
Biden
did. And
took
so that's the question.
1,850 boxes.
But that's the question that investigators have, I think, is why you held on to those documents when you knew the federal government was seeking them and then had given you a subpoena to return them.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Can I talk?
Yeah, what's
you
the
mind?
answer?
Do you mind?
I would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple to. You're a nasty person, I'll tell you.
Can you answer why you held on to the documents?
I was negotiating.
So that's it. That's the big one. And I don't, just to me, that clip, like, everyone just says, like, oh, how mean he was in that clip. Like,
He's so mean.
Like,
he hates women.
He's talking to the snide, sneering, condescending, haughty liberal who talks down to you, you know, just says, mask up, shut up, you know, let your small business die. Shut up. Shut up. You want to hurt people? Shut up. And then MSNBC was mad that they even had this town hall. I mean, this is the place we're at in this country.
Even Anderson Cooper was having a fit last night on the air that his own network had Donald Trump on, which was hilarious.
I mean, that's a thing with communism that clicked with me. Everybody's like, oh, you can't have democracy in a one-party state. What if the party actually works? What if it actually helps people and you can run for office within the one party? But you can't just, there's not another party that you can just blame all the problems on. And then you switch back and forth from one to the other while you fix nothing.
Well, you know, that reminds me. Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt your rant.
No, it's democratic if it helps the broad masses of people. It's not democratic if you get to vote. If you get to vote for two fake candidates that don't even, neither one's going to help you. That's your idea of democracy? Democracy comes from the Greek, the demos, the people. The people in power. Do you feel in power, Americans? Come on. What are you living in?
Great point. And, you know, the Communist Party is currently the second largest and most powerful party in Russia today. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of people think that when the Soviet Union fell, that communism just completely died in Russia with it, which is a very fallacious belief. Communism is still alive and well in Russia. Yep. Some 60% of the Russian people, according to polling by Levada, would prefer to have the old Soviet Union back again. Mm-hmm. That comes as a shock to a lot of people in the West. Also, Some 70 to 75%, depending on the poll, of Russians today still look upon Joseph Stalin as the greatest leader that they ever had.